Welcome to the Creative Writing Workshop. Today we will learn what creative writing is and how to implement it in our classrooms. Creative writing is writing with a purpose to convey emotion, experience, and/or information. It also means one's putting his or her ideas and feelings about a particular topic on paper by using his or her imagination freely. Personal writing is also creative writing. It's a way for children to be expressive through their words and/or pictures. Each creative writing piece should include content, organization, characters, place, and time. Creative writing is also fiction and/or nonfiction. Frequently we associate creative writing with fiction. However, nonfiction is also creative writing when a true story is well told. The goal is to make nonfiction stories read like fiction so that your readers are enthralled by fact as they are by fantasy. Often there is a conflict and a point of view, as well as content, organization, characters, place, and time. Content is the basic event or main idea of the story. Organization is the cohesive framework in which the story is written and keeps the reader motivated to keep reading. Characters, whether they be human or not human, are things that live out through the plot. They could be a protagonist, an antagonist, or they're a helping character. Place is the setting in the place or places where the events exist, and time is the events that take place in a certain time period. Only a few concepts need to be mentioned. All of these help put together a full and well-written story. To begin the creative writing process, we can begin with brainstorming and quick writes. They can work together or separately. Brainstorming could be using an organizer or writing a list of things they want to write about. Sometimes writing prompts can also be used. When using writing prompts, we might use a picture or a story starter, and they can continue to use a graphic organizer following the prompt to brainstorm for their story. Quick writes, we often give a certain amount of time for students to write down everything they can think of about a certain topic. And quick writes can also be used to just jot down everything and anything you can think of in a certain amount of time, and then they can be used as your story topics or your story starters. For example, we recently did one, and I wrote down everything I could think of from school to home to work to my favorite animals, and mermaids, which happen to be my favorite, and that's where I started my story from. So I'm going to give everybody a chance to do a quick write on their own. I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds. You can write about anything and everything, or you can just write about a specific topic. Just write for 30 seconds. Create a list of everything that you can think of, and go. Now that we have done a quick write, we're going to jump right into the brainstorming process. I'd like you all to choose one of your topics that you wrote down from your quick write. And then in the brainstorming, I'd like you to write down some more notes about your topic, and this time be a little bit more specific what you would like to include in your story. You can create a graphic organizer, you can create another list, whichever way you think would be best for you to jot down some ideas. So I'm going to give you a minute for this. Now that you have some wonderful ideas, we're going to start going through some of the other processes for creative writing. The next step would be research. Even though we usually are writing from made up thoughts and beliefs, sometimes every story does need some research. We might try writing about a story in a certain place or certain time or a certain era that we would need to know more information about, or to spruce up some ideas. Even when writing fiction stories, we can research people, places, and things to base our stories off of. For example, if we're writing about mermaids, we may look up if they exist, where they live, and what they look like, gather more details to elaborate on our story and give the reader a visualization in their story, even if it's researching the ocean and its life forms where the mermaids might live. Students need to articulate the main idea of their research before they begin collecting information. In order to know what kind of information we're looking for and the research that needs to be done, we have to know what we're exactly going to be writing. Now that we've gone over research, since we are in a workshop, it's not specifically easy to gather some extra ideas and research on the internet, but for your piece, I would like you guys to write down some questions that you have about your writing piece. Is there more detail of the setting or place you need to look up? Is it something you're writing from a personal experience that you need to remember a specific date or time? Maybe you have to ask a relative or a friend how the weather was, or something specific about the outfit somebody was wearing, or like the example I used before, of looking up the water in the ocean where one might live. So I'm going to give you another minute to jot down some of this information. Now that we have parts of our story and information on what we want to write about and things that we need to spruce up our information on, we can begin the drafting phase. Drafting is starting our story with disregard of how it looks, spelling, or mechanics. All of those things will be addressed in revising and editing. Drafting is specifically just to get your thoughts down on a piece of paper and attempt a start at your new story. Sometimes we tend to forget to capitalize, or our punctuation isn't exactly correct. We can always cross out and rewrite, or we move around paragraphs. So when you're drafting, these are things that we don't necessarily need to think about at this moment. We're just trying to get most of our story down on a piece of paper. Journaling can be used the same way. Often we tend to think about our writing when we're not necessarily in our writing time. So what we can do is create a journal where we can jot down something when we think about it and add it to our drafts later, instead of being stuck on a particular item when it's not the time of day or the lesson. Sometimes the students can't think until they actually get these thoughts down on the paper. So sometimes by just giving them that minute or two to pull out this journal and write down their thoughts for their papers, It relieves that stress for the students, and they get to put down their information and go back to it at a later time. I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes to write a draft of your ideas. This is just a head start since we don't have much time to do everything. I would like you guys to just write. Don't worry about mechanics or spelling or specific organization. Just, I want you to write your stories.